Hi there. Yes, you're still dreaming. Don't worry about it. You probably saw me somewhere in public, and that's why I'm here. They say that every person who appears in your dream is someone you saw, whether in passing or even in a photo. Dreams are funny like that, aren't they? So many different cultures say different things about them. Are they a window to something greater? Or just random nonsense? Am I really here, in a sense, or am I a figment of your imagination? Maybe the real me is someone a little different than you imagine, and your brain just filled in the empty space with a personality you would like to see. Many people see dreams as frivolous. I disagree. It's important to follow your dreams because you never know where they may lead you. Whether they lead you somewhere or nowhere, at least you got up and did something that day. Many people erroneously and firmly state that dreams are prophetic. I find this both true and false. They can be prophetic, but not in the way you think. Dreams are not magical illusions that can tell you exactly when and where something is going to happen. Dreams can instead take in all the information you process throughout the past day, week, or month, and plays around with it like a toddler with toys. Dreams take you through various permutations of hidden outcomes and the underlying emotions around you. It's through the dream world that I derive my method of detection. I have been recording my dreams ever since I was 12 years old. Now, at the ripe old age of 29, I have become a master at lucid dreaming. The more you write down your dreams, the more you're aware of them. And the more aware you become of them, the more power you have over them. Dreams have helped me solve cases. When a case proves difficult, I sleep on it. This draws the ire of many of my coworkers, especially my boss, Captain Steward Colt. The very first case I solved created friction between us that still lingers to this day.
I've called you in for something very important, Vangelis. I think it's high time we let you handle a case on your own. Something just popped up and I happen to think you're just the lady for the job.
Does this have anything to do with Mevna storming out of your office less than an hour ago, yelling something about a waste of his time?
Why would they be
or
at all?
Or that he doesn't have the patience to work with a rookie again?
Thin walls in this office, huh? Fuck, I was trying to be polite, kid. This case really is important, and it's in our best interest to get it done quickly. That's more important than, no one else wanted to take it on or wanting to let you shadow them anymore. Didn't exactly think you'd take my order to investigate this in stride, if I put it so bluntly.
Clearly you don't know me well, Captain. A challenging investigation I get to do my way? Do go on.
You're weird, you know that? Alright, here's the case file. I'll lay this out for you. There's a pharmaceutical company by the name of Epigenesis that was expecting a shipment of theirs from Tritara to arrive on Io, Jupiter. Tritara is home to their distribution center for the Helios system and the surrounding area. A company that big to have their main distribution on Tritara isn't just mailing large packages through Starlight Cargo. They have their own product transit ships that carry huge amounts of supplies and, more importantly, substances from their headquarters to their distro centers. It was one of those transit ships carrying substances that got jumped blind at a thorium station in Saturn's orbit. Apparently, the driver couldn't hold it for the 40-odd light minutes to Jupiter and didn't bother to lock the hatch behind him on his way to the restroom.
Oh, all that which is lost to the siren song of the urinal.
Now, this is no ordinary shipjacking, because the majority of the shipment was thousands of quasis worth of a chemical named Nulon-4. Are you familiar?
No, Captain.
Perhaps you've heard of Sprinkle.
I always get extra sprinkles on special occasions. It's one of my favorite treats for myself. I feel like they're so ubiquitous as a topping that they're paradoxically underrated. My grandmother calls them jimmies. Apparently, it's an Earth colloquialism. I like to say that to the worker at the ice cream counter, as in, with extra jimmies, please. But I always have to explain what
Chett.
Yes. Hello.
Not sprinkles. Sprinkle.
Oh, I see. Yes, I was offered some at a party once, but I'm not a fan of intoxication in general. I like to keep my faculties about me.
You get invited to parties?
Not often, but it was my uncle's stepdaughter Margot's son's bar mitzvah. The whole family was invited.
What? Who's doing Sprinkle at a bar mitzvah?
Margot's a bit of a wild card. You see...
Save it. Off topic. Tritara. Stolen shipment. Nulon 4.
Right.
Nulon 4 is highly toxic in almost any dose to pretty much any carbon-based life form. But in extremely, extremely small doses, it helps in treatment of pineal calcification, also known as brain sand. Who names this stuff?
Brain sand is no joke, Captain. That's a common affliction. Humans didn't discover the dangers of a calcified pineal gland for centuries. I've known many people with brain sand.
All the more reason this is important, Vangelis. Being from the Helio system yourself, you know how bad it is that this shipment was intercepted. Nulon 4 doesn't just decalcify glands and kill you if you ingest more than a few milliliters. It's also the main component in making Sprinkle. The epigenesis representative who called this in certainly doesn't think this was carried out by a vigilante pharmacist, and I'm inclined to agree. This was clearly done by someone who saw their opportunity to yank and resell a fortune to some zaphead somewhere. Not exactly a genius, mind you. The containers for the chemicals each have tracking devices implanted in them. Epigenesis gave us the Find Me ID numbers to help track down the perps. Their team was able to narrow it down to Daruna, but the signal then cut off. They were smart enough to hand it to us before veering into violating any privacy laws.
Very big of them. I don't figure most pharmaceutical companies would exercise that much restraint.
Your case file has all of those locations listed alongside names and faces of likely suspects for the theft itself, as well as the selling of the product. If I may offer you a confident lead, though, Zybnek Frost, third guy down on the 5th page. Given his rap sheet what seems to be direct involvement, if you were to only look into one person, it'd be him.
Well, you've certainly gotten me invested. I'm very willing to play my part in recovering medicine people need, especially in a region where pineal calcification is so fatal and shockingly common. But I'm a detective. Don't you think this is a case for the narcotics division, Captain?
Would you stop calling me Captain? You sound like a sailor. Colt or Sir will do.
My question remains, sir.
Darunan authorities will be arresting and persecuting the individual dealers on their own planet. It's up to us as Space Patrol to arrest and prosecute the thief on account of their crossing of system and quadrant boundaries in the act. But that comes after. A detective is being brought in to investigate the details and suspects. You know, gather intel, reconnaissance. Bit of a private eye affair. So I've laid out this very detailed summary of your case for you in your pad there. Don't delete that file. Epigenesis will want that kind of security. This is a solo endeavor, so you'll have to travel to Daruna yourself. But once you arrive, shadow the dealer. Pose as a buyer in their headquarters. Catch him in the act. Then zap him.
With the sun setting on, you mean?
Right. Yes, as I was just saying, it sounds razzier than just saying stun him. Purely a matter of preferred word choice. All that said, you'll be going straight for Daruna. You should arrive before dinner time.
Realistically, I'll likely get there sometime tomorrow around lunch.
Sorry?
Well, according to the shuttle schedule.
You don't have your own spaceship?
No.
What? Why not?
I find riding the shuttle to be a more insightful experience. Plus, it cuts back on the amount of phasar used to make...
Tard, do we have any available recon ships?
No, sir. The garage is empty. We sent out a large group on standby for the prospective future stakeout, remember?
The Quark shuttle line is very reliable, sir. I should be back within...
Right, sure. Just report back to me when you nab them. Remember, the chief is stopping later to do an inspection. Like, within the week. I would like this case wrapped up by the time he comes by. So go on and get out there.
Of course, sir.
Hello! Welcome to Galaxy Freeways. Please stay in the cabin area while the shuttle is in transit. This ride across the stars was brought to you by the following sponsors.
So come on down to Takey's Fortune. Take a chance. There's no tomorrow. Take the consequence with stride. There's no space for any sorrow. Come accept our invitation.
Church of the Eternal Phallus may have answers for you.
Founded by St. Richard Bonnard, the Church of the Eternal Phallus believes in the one true God.
Black hole in again. Just 1/2 a second spray and those stains are gone.
The ride to Daruna is full of interesting characters, as is any public ride. A lot of people I've spoken to prefer to put in or on some form of headphones and get lost in music or a narrative in an explicit attempt to avoid interaction with the supposedly strange shuttle-faring public. This puts one in a position to miss many idiosyncrasies of life. Public transportation is a wonderful microcosm of all the most interesting facets of the universe we inhabit. I like to engage with whomever I can, whenever I can. I suppose that might make me a member of the strange shuttle-farers, but if I am to wear that label, I wear it proudly. On that day's transit, the man sitting next to me happened to be a singer. He was dressed in fine garbs that gave off the impression that he was an experienced traveler. He was strumming a vibratar in such a casual manner that it became apparent to me he wasn't sure what he was composing. So, as I'm wont to do, I asked him about it. What is it that you're looking for? You seem to be searching for a tune.
Yeah, something like that.
Are you going to be presenting this to someone soon?
Yes and no. I just want the galaxy to hear it.
Do go on.
I've been totally naffed over the past couple years with the ultimate song.
The ultimate song? I don't believe I've heard of it.
Sure you have. Everybody has. Goes something like this.
The tune struck me with an intense feeling of déjà vu. I knew I heard it before, but it eluded me. I was stunned, fascinated, really.
The most mysterious song in the universe. Nobody knows where this song came from. But people started making their own covers, putting meaning behind it that wasn't never there, then even adding to it. It really took on a life of its own. Next thing you know, some folks tried to do a thing to keep it going. They kept adding to it and fine-tuning it. They wanted to make it the best song in the known universe. This led to people coming up with some strange new sounds. So strange, but so wonderful. It made some people obsessed, to the point of madness, really. A few scientists and other know-it-alls have theorized about the most aesthetically pleasing sound. They say there's sound waves that can tap into your head and vibrate in such a way that can make you calm down. People even say they're tunes that can cause mind control. I don't know. I just want to add to it and be a part of the fad, you know? But everything I come up with just doesn't feel right.
Well, if it's the ultimate song, then ultimately it might encompass feelings that don't feel right?
Hey, yeah. You know, I never thought of it that way before. My name's Saron, by the way. Saron Lark.
And I'm Chett Vangelis.
You know, if you visit the Space Diner over by Jupiter once in a while, you can see me play.
Hello, everyone. We are arriving at Station 1112 in First Plainsboro on Ares. Any connections or transfers to elsewhere on Ares should decraft now and head to the next station. Next stop, the Daruna Geosatellite Travel Center, then Daruna after.
Razzie. That's my stop. Well, thanks a lot, Chett. You gave me plenty to think about.
You've taught me a lot, too. Safe travels. Enjoy Ares. I laid back in my seat, put on a pair of earbuds, and looked up the original version of the song to listen to for the rest of the ride. So, off to Daruna I was, without much of anyone else to speak to. Upon landing there, it was a swift walk to the lodging that Space Patrol had arranged for me. The twin metro areas dominating this part of Daruna were the capital cities of the two provinces it laid across the border of. On one side of the border was the largely residential Meinhof, which is where I happened to be staying. The rents were lower, and the businesses and attractions showing less variety than those of Bader, its more densely populated but physically smaller twin city. It was the Bader Police Department involved on the local level, but for reasons that seemed to make a lot of unspoken sense to everyone else, but no one had really explained to me, myself and the federal agents of the planet-wide Darunan Enforcement Bureau were being given accommodations on this side of the state line. As always, I was packed relatively lightly, so it didn't take me long to get settled in and make my way to the Bader Policing Division's headquarters to touch base with everyone else. Upon entering the building and being directed by a couple of receptionists past a series of redundant hallways and doors, I made my way into the meeting room. I was right on time. Two officers filed through the door in front of and behind me, respectively. The three of us all hesitated in our stride after entering, unsure of where to sit or whether to sit at all. There was a lot of awkward mumbling and nodding as they arranged their seats and figured out how to organize the meeting. I'm well accustomed to standing in briefings like these. However, it makes certain people slightly uncomfortable if you stand without being the one to whom everyone is meant to be listening to. Regardless, I had just been on the shuttle and felt the need to stretch my legs. The meeting room had a plethora of seats, a literal bounty. Still, I preferred to stand, and soon the conference room filled up with other officers and agents. The two officers who arrived with me tilted their heads back, enough to catch a look at me. They were slightly shorter than myself, which is to say they were still among the taller folks in the room. The one to my right was a Darunan, A scruffy mullet framed their features, pale blue skin providing the canvas for their dual-pupiled eyes, and the smile with 2 rows of teeth they flashed me. They politely waved their stiff-jointed arms at me, but it was the officer to their left, a short human man, with a full beard and messy wreath of curly hair on his head, who spoke first.
Intimidation tactic, or are you on one of those, sitting is unhealthy kicks?
Who, me? The waver spoke second.
It's a hell of a look, but Skid's respect, way into it.
I just feel the most comfortable on my feet. I could tell by their attire that they must have been a member of some Darunan 3-letter agency, an Interpol desk job to report back to planet officials on this case. The Darunan wore a button-up long-sleeve plaid shirt, but with its top 5 buttons undone, flanked by a pencil skirt and a blazer. Legs finishing in combat boots, clearly not recently worn in any kind of combat, if ever. Their real clothes told me they were a planetary government official living the high life in this job. The scruffy human man, on the other hand, was dressed in a tan polo, tan khakis, and wearing a dark brown corduroy jacket. His outfit was kempt, but he looked exhausted in every sense of the word.
Like I said, sis, Skid's respect, no aggro.
Your planet really brought in all shapes and sizes of specialists to help tackle this ring. Something must be really important to them about this. Definitely more variety than you'd see for your run-of-the-mill harassment of low-income neighborhoods.
Are you thinking it's a full-blown cartel?
Oh, are you asking me?
No, I was asking the wall behind you.
I know what's missing, who might have it, and why I'm personally here. Any other details, I'm about to learn for the first time, so I couldn't say. Could be a lot of things.
You don't get many pre-briefing briefings in your division?
Oh, I do. They're just rarely particularly helpful to me in my line of work.
You a narc?
No, weirdly enough, I'm a detective. Badge and everything. Space Patrol.
Oh, so you're who the agency behind the agency sends?
I think phrasing it like that gives us more credit towards control than we're due. I'm just here to help catch someone stealing essential medicine, and I'm allowed to cross quadrant lines if it comes to it. That's really all, as far as I've been made aware.
I'm from right here in Beta. My office is on the other side of this building. Funny they'd send a detective, given that's my beat.
Perhaps you and I will be working pretty closely together?
I'm here for sleuthing myself. What are the odds they'll pair us up?
Then I'd be happy to work with the two of you. More hands, more done.
More hands, more fun. I'm Dust, by the way.
Beck.
Nice to meet the both of you. I'm Chett.
Alright, we can chit-chat idly all night if we so wish, but I didn't gather you all here for an ice cream social. We've got a large ring of gangbangers on our hands. As much as I'm remiss to admit such degeneracy in the streets, I claim to be the chief of police for, the warehouse districts of Beta are quickly becoming prime breeding grounds for gang and drug-related activity. I'm going to skip details with reckless abandon here, because my local officers should have been here for last week's briefing on these specifics, or our outside help should have been informed of the details by whoever takes care of them. That's not my job. Here's what I'm here to do. Whip your asses into squads to start bringing down this scum. We've got a lot of different talent from all rungs of the hierarchy of law and order in this room. Detective Vangelis, the outpost detective getting freelanced into this. You're saddled with keeping Darunan local, and state detectives Beck, Hoffman, and Dust Avida with directives, and feeding us back here any intel. I know your type. I hope you have a bit more integrity than to let this fall by the wayside. You three have all been given packets by your higher-ups containing suspects and known locations based on information gathered by Epigenesis and the preliminary searches the Beta PD did for you. Even Hoffman wrote some of it, so he should really know. You three are dismissed early. The rest of us here will start talking raids, so go on and crack out a plan.
You know, I was kidding when I asked if they'd pair us up.
It's nice to know that we don't get to know anything else they might say in that meeting.
Knowing city-level officers? Just how not to shoot civilians for the nth time this week. Wonder if it'll stick.
Like global enforcement is much better. Don't think any of us have forgotten about that Mount Fanta compound incident.
I'm from the Investigative Bureau, not the Shoot the Dogs of Civilians Bureau. Give me a break.
I don't think there's much to joke about here.
I take it you've got no interest in getting scanned for being patrol muscle, huh?
I could say many unkind things about what individuals who work under the same banner as me have done. Being given the power to uphold justice, unfortunately, comes with a culture of abusing that power. I've got a sense of humor, trust me, but perhaps I'm not jaded enough to joke about an atrocity happening so near me yet.
How long have you been working for Space Patrol?
Only a handful of years, coming up on 4. I've been doing clerical and patrol work for longer than that, but as far as Colt is concerned, I'm fresh meat.
Turnover rates are pretty high around here. I've been on the force for about 6 years now, I think. Daruna isn't very strict about the standardized calendar planet side, so I know I've been here 8 times around the sun, however that math works out.
Did you grow up on Daruna?
I've never left Beta Meinhof. My father is from here, but my mother immigrated from Tritara, so I've heard stories, but I've never left the city limits except for a few vacations growing up.
What about you, Dust?
I figured the arms or skin would be a dead giveaway.
I wasn't going to jump to any conclusions.
You know what happens when you assume.
You open yourself up to being incorrect and prejudiced?
Well, kinda, but when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Good one. So, I would hate to make asses out of all of us and assume we all got the same dossier. My superior, Captain Colt, led me to believe there's a promising lead tracking down one Mr. Frost. I saw a nice park on my walk here, about 5 blocks northwest of here. I see no reason why we shouldn't start comparing notes now. It's a beautiful day, so are either of you opposed to finding a secluded picnic table and going over what we have and getting a plan together?
Kicking my ass into gear already? Who said you were in charge?
Oh, my sincerest apologies. I wasn't trying to...
They're just scanning you. I like the idea.
A park is very difficult to mess up. The upkeep on the city became truly apparent to me by the failed and sorry state of the park. With about half a dozen trees dying of fungal overgrowth and several broken swings, I suspected that maybe funds were focusing more on trying to suppress these gangs than actually create a healthy and sound community. Dust and Beck shared their tips. I began to feel out of the loop quickly as they laughed about their inside jokes and references to life in the city and on Daruna. My attention strayed to the park around us, as it struck me that we were the only souls for miles. A pedestrian hovercraft passed by, and that was when I noticed a billboard for the local casino, Taiki's Fortune. It depicted an animated and somewhat suggestive image of the titular classical deity, beckoning to the viewer to enjoy whatever commercialized bounty she was selling. What's the law here about vagrancy?
Huh?
Where are the homeless? Surely a planet such as Daruna running on a capitalist economic model must have vagrants.
Homeless people often sleep wherever, Detective.
Yeah, they just muck about. I don't know. Never paid attention.
The homeless are always invisible to people.
Is there something on your mind about the case? What do you think of all this?
I'll sleep on it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Just about dinner time anyway. I know a good Gargonian joint not too far from here.
The two of them stood up and began walking away. I, of course, used the remaining available space to lie down on the bench. I removed my glasses, clasped my hands around them on my chest, and began to fall asleep.
Detective? What are you doing?
I already said, I'm sleeping on it.
But now? Literally?
It's my method of detection, actually.
What? How?
I don't expect you to believe me, and I don't wish to elaborate, but if I must, I rely on the subconscious power of dreams to help me solve cases.
Those patrollers sure are weird. You sure living up in space for so long didn't mess with your head?
That sounds awfully like a load of muckle. A poor, terribly creative excuse to not do your job.
On the contrary, I think I'm onto something.
Oh yeah? How's that? Will you be counting shipments of sprinkle in your sleep?
Again, I hate having to elaborate, but if I must. I'm surprised neither of you realize the nature of the place we are in. A park. A very desolate park at that. There's always at least one person walking their pet, but nobody is here but us. That tells me one thing. People are afraid of coming here. It may be a stretch, but there is a vibe in the air. Every sports court is empty, despite the weather being just fine. Something feels amiss, and I think
I don't believe this.
No, wait. She might be onto something. We'll do like a little undercover op. Nobody here knows Chett. She's an outsider. And she's, she's a bit,
A bit what, Dust? You can say it.
Weird. You don't exactly look like a detective. When you stepped into the conference room, I thought you were looking for an AA meeting. No offense.
None taken. At least I look like I'm part of an organization.
This is ridiculous. What if word gets out that we let a space patrol detective lounge around here in the middle of the night?
I can take care of whatever my superior Colt might think of my methods. The only thing he cares about is a result.
Right. Let's just let her be, Beck. Let her do her thing. We could continue our side of the work and fill you in on any leads we might have. You're armed, right?
Yes.
Good. Well, shall we, Beck?
I had not sleepwalked in a couple years, so I was a little nervous of what might happen. Still, I had become a strong lucid dreamer. I developed a method that I like to call sleep dowsing. It started when I wanted to create a better way of remembering where my apartment keys were. I knew the location was there somewhere in the confines of my memory. I knew I had a feeling, a vibe, but my waking self simply couldn't make the connection. I laid down to think and fell asleep. That was when I sleepwalked. I stood up and ventured into what was a vast and thick jungle. I brushed aside the shrubs with a machete and reveled in the adventure. And then I parted two ferns and found the keys lying in the dirt. That was how my subconscious interpreted the discovery. In reality, I had actually dropped my keys in the flower pot next to the front door. I wasn't aware I had done that, but my subconscious knew that I must have dropped them there, since I was carrying a package that I had received and not paying attention to what my other hand was doing with the keys. I tried this method again, and over time I was able to locate missing items with a measurable success rate of 83%. I found my old college yearbook underneath the living room couch, my neighbor's teddy bear, and that darned sock that I thought I lost in the laundry. Of course, it's important to take note of the other 17% failures. The common denominators for failures included a disturbance in my routine sleep schedule, a bit too much of a mind-altering substance, and a small percentage of plain just not getting it right. I instigate sleepwalking by thinking about dreams that can create hypnic jerks. For example, the classic, I'm piloting a starship and I'm about to crash into a mountain. Or, I wonder what falling from a skyscraper feels like. All work like a charm. The Daruna job was the first time I tried to use sleep dowsing to solve a case. A real case. Not just my keys or lost trinkets. That sentiment was enough to get me to sleepwalk. My job was on the line. What if I messed up and Colt fired me and asked me to take my belongings? That was how I ended up having the following dream. I woke up at my desk in Precinct G571 and found that the office was flooding. The water was already up to my waist when I woke up. The emergency lights were flashing red, and everyone was wading through the water trying to find a way out. It was not apparent to me what was causing the flood, or where the water was even coming from. A mattress floated past my office, so I climbed on and used it as a raft. Captain Colt was sitting on top of his desk, screaming and yelling about trying not to get wet. I offered him a hand and he jumped on the mattress. He yelled at me and asked me why I was not acting more scared. I told him that I don't let people tell me how I should feel. The flood swept us away, but I wasn't afraid. The current took us down a hallway that should have led to the armory, but instead it led us to the main floor of Casino 77. I thought about the water rides with the animatronics at Nebulon Park. The casino was flooded as well, but all its patrons were too busy gambling to notice the flood. Captain Colt and I stared at everyone as we passed by on the mattress. It occurred to me that the only form of gambling in the casino was slots. No matter what kind of slot machine people gambled on, they all played the same song. It's the song that the singer on the shuttle played, the song that has been played for over 1,000 years, and yet nobody knows who made it. Captain Colt tapped my shoulder and said, "This is all your fault, by the way." We floated there on the mattress. Something lurked in the water. I sensed it before I could see it. A fin popped up to greet the surface, and then sauntered in our direction. I couldn't see clearly what the creature was, but it lifted its head out of the water and bit the mattress. I closed my eyes. The bedding became more concrete in the grip of my hands, my senses more solid. And yet the world around me refused to make sense. As I became aware that I was dreaming, and that I wasn't going to die, the mattress turned into a bench. I sat up to find myself back in the park on Daruna, only this time I was surrounded by a misty forest of large purple mushrooms. I had done it. I was sleep dowsing. Time was passing at an irregular rate, sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It took a quick second to catch my footing, much like an astronaut in low gravity. The forest of mushrooms made sense to me, since Sprinkle is a dangerous hallucinogen. It was still nighttime like in the conscious world, but the giant mushrooms lit the way with a gentle purple glow. I carried on and ventured further. It was a little disorienting at first because I had no sense of what was beyond other than darkness. More mushrooms appeared as I continued walking. I heard the trickling of water and found a little bridge that crossed over a creek. The bridge looked so small that it might have been decorative rather than functional. Regardless, I stepped on it. The bridge then became wider and longer. Halfway through crossing the bridge, I heard scurrying. Something was underneath. I turned around expecting to see someone. When I faced the other direction again, a giant werehom stood in front of me. Its form was more exaggerated than your usual werehom. Its arms were so long and bulky that it rested them on the ground like a gorilla. Its eyes were still red, with protective goggles over them. The fur was more gray than white.
What say you?
I didn't know what to say. What should I say? The werehom pressed for an answer as it leaned forward with a threatening gaze, and it started to growl. It reached out an open palm.
What say you?
I felt a need to check my pockets. I had nothing on me. Of course, in the conscious world, I should have had my zapper. The fact that my dream was not giving my zapper was telling me that I should rely on something else. I opened my mouth to speak, but instead sang. I started singing the song that the singer told me about on the shuttle. It wasn't perfect, but the main melody was there. Like the wind, you came here running. Take the consequence of living. There's no space. There's no tomorrow. there's no sense communication. Check it in, check it out, 'cause the sun will never shine. The werehom looked at me with a cartoonish expression of awe. It removed its goggles, revealing 2 inky red eyes. It bowed in reverence.
I am sorry. I did not know. Are you lost?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Come with me.
I became more at ease with sleep dowsing. We seemed to be getting somewhere. When I sleepwalked for the first time, I was afraid that I would run into oncoming traffic or fall off the edge of my apartment balcony. Fortunately, my lucid dreaming correlates dangers in the dream world to the waking world. A giant man-eating caterpillar may not be an oncoming hover car, but I do know when to turn around from something dangerous. Clearly, this werehom represented someone I was talking to in the park late at night. They might not have actually been a werehom, but instead a jugari or a custodian or even a dog. I knew I'd find out sooner or later when I woke up.
I didn't think there were more out there who knew the words.
Hmm?
Nobody has said them in a long time, only those in the castle.
What else could I say? I had no idea what the werehom was referring to. Might as well nod along. The landscape finally started changing. We walked over hills and the mushrooms started to fill every square inch until they were everywhere of all shapes and sizes. A mist began to spread, making the hairs on my skin stand up. An ominous shape took form up ahead. It was a cave, a large, monstrous cave, with a steel gate at the entrance. The werehom had the keys to the gate and led the way through the dark cave. I felt the need to be quiet. The werehom, meanwhile, made noise with every stomping footfall. It became pitch black, but the werehom had no trouble leading the way, even telling me to keep up. I nearly tripped when we reached a stairwell. I used the wall to support myself in case I fell. We reached a dungeon, dimly lit with torches on the wall, and murky with dripping water and smelly puddles on the floor. I hesitated before going further. The werehom turned around and beckoned me to follow. There were many doors, but I didn't see or hear any prisoners in the dungeon. It was quiet, except for our footsteps. We rounded a corner to a large chamber.
Who is this?
I jumped at the voice. I found that the werehom had taken me to see a wizard wearing a starry robe and a pointy hat. All around him were dwarves picking up boxes of gems and precious jewels. They were red-eyed and paid no attention to us. I looked down at my clothes and realized that I was suddenly wearing the same thing as the wizard, a purple starry robe. I reached for my head and felt a conical hat. I looked inside of it, wondering if something would come out.
A fellow wizard master.
Is she now? Did you cast a spell on her? She's acting a bit queer.
I did not.
Sorry, I had a long night. Who... I stopped myself short. Asking stupid questions would get me in danger. I then played it into the dream logic. Yes, actually, I am under a spell! I motioned with my hands to pretend that I was doing magic, and then sparkling dust fell from my fingers to my own amazement. I then realized, sprinkle.
Good. We're all makers of magic here. Our spell is of great importance to the world, as you should know.
Yes, very important.
What is that strange noise?
Someone was calling me. I was starting to wake up, which wasn't really a good idea in the middle of sleepwalking. I had never before woken up while sleepwalking. I had no idea what was in store for me. My head started to hurt and my vision blurred. I felt my communicator in my pocket when it wasn't there before the dream started.
What is the meaning of this?
Sorry, I have to take this. It'll be quick, I promise. Hello?
Chett. Chett!
Where in the black hole are you? The officers in Daruna say you've been missing for hours, and now I'm told you're trying to sleepwalk to solve this case? What in blazing comets are they talking about?
Everything is under control. I am actually asleep right now, so...
That doesn't make any sense.
The longer we keep talking, the higher the chance that I will wake up. So please hang up first, because I'm not the type to do that. It's very rude.
Oh, by the stars, please tell me I didn't make the wrong choice. All you have to do is find the dealer and bring them in. Please tell me you can do that.
I have to go. A werehom is about to tackle me.
What?
When I came to, I found myself tied to a chair in a dingy closet space with very glaring white lights. Everything hurt. My head throbbed in the same way as when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I was hungry, tired, and utterly miserable. I learned for the first time never to be woken up abruptly during sleep dowsing. Having your dream interrupted in general can cause emotional instability.
I swear, I didn't know she was a cop.
You be quiet, she's awake.
The werehom had been a scrawny young Rylon woman in rags with wide red eyes that told me she was on Sprinkle. She had a mousy nose with red wine skin. The man in front of me was tall and imposing, with half of his hair buzzed off straight down from front to back. He must have been the wizard I spoke to. He had a wild look in his eyes, and both of his arms were robotic prosthetics. It took me seconds longer than normal to realize he was Zybnek Frost. He pointed a single metal digit at me.
Duck, or I break every bone in your body.
I really want to see the movie Gone with the Asteroids. It's one of many recent remakes from years ago.
What?
You said talk. You didn't specify about what.
For the love of... Talk about who you are and why you're here, smartass.
I'm Chett Vangelis. I was sleepwalking.
You seem pretty lucid to me.
Thank you. I have been recording my dreams since I was little, so I'm glad I come off as lucid.
Is she on Sprinkle?
Pria here says you knew the code. How did you know the code?
I didn't, until I slept-walked. Now I do.
Cut the muckle, you're not making any sense. How did you know the code?
My subconscious put the pieces together during my dream.
Where did you get your Sprinkle? You're on a totally different level than us.
Shut up! You don't tell me how you got here. I'm gonna fry you with the zapper.
A man on the shuttle I was on sang a song, the most mysterious song in the universe, or so he called it. I had heard the song before, but never knew what it was. He told me all about it, and when I sleptwalked in the park, I happened to come across your friend here, and my subconscious used it as a passcode.
And you expect me to believe that?
What other explanation is there?
I don't know, that you're a cop?
That too, I suppose.
So you admit it?
Be careful. If you lose your trigger finger, then you'll have a dead Space Patrol body on your hands. Every Space Patrol agent has a tracker. I bet you my friends are on their way here right now after that abrupt end to my call. Either way, you are going to get a knock on your door, and you have to let me go.
She's got a point, you know.
I know! We know how to get rid of you. Pria, make yourself useful. I gotta head out, or else I'll be late. You know what to do.
Sure thing.
Zybnek left the room. Pria blackbagged me and whistled casually as she pulled me to my feet and prodded me into the next room. Though I couldn't see anything, I heard many interesting things. I heard the industrious noises of a warehouse, people shuffling large boxes, and a few warning buzzers to get out of the way, and assembly lines. Soon the noises drowned out as we progressed through a long corridor, with our footsteps echoing. At last, Pria opened a creaky door, and we were outside again.
We take care of people tailing us by pretending they're in accidents. You see, we can't shoot them, or else their bodies will have zapper burns, and I didn't know this until Zybnek told me, but zapper burns can tell a lot about the kind of zapper that was used. The blast radius and all. Also, dead bodies with zapper burns really make the cops poke around more.
I'm thrilled you're telling me all of this.
Yeah, I just thought you should know because, I'm gonna kill you and all. Or rather, it will be an accident.
What kind of accident will I be in?
Falling. We're gonna go up to the roof here, so watch your step.
Why are you telling me all this?
Well, I figured it'd be nice to warn people we execute how it's gonna happen before it happens. Started doing it a while back after Zybnek got mad at an insider and fed him to a grundler while being black-bagged. I would think you should at least have a moment to collect your final thoughts, yeah?
How thoughtful.
So, I'm gonna warn you right when I'm about to push you off. But before I do, I wanted to ask you where you get your sprinkle. I've never seen anyone so spaghettified before.
Thanks. I wasn't on Sprinkle when I met you. I was sleepwalking. It's a method of detection I use called sleep dowsing. My subconscious directs me to where I should go.
Oh, whoa. That's slappers. You're on a totally different level. How can I be on the level you're at?
Not on this roof, that's for sure. It took me years of training.
You're so in tune with the universe. I want to be like that. Wait. Are you from the Colt? Zap? Oh, can you let me in on it? Zybnek keeps saying I shouldn't, but I really want to. Oh, wait. No, but if you're a cop, then that means... Oh. Do they know where the shipments go? What was that?
Back up. Listen, I can lessen your sentence if you tell me more about where the shipments go. What's this about a cult? You're stuck between a black hole and a supernova. I get it, but rehabilitation is possible, easily accessible, and you can lead a healthy life. Pria pulled off the black bag. I looked down at a 20-story drop that nearly made me fall by its sudden appearance. The skyline of Bader was in the distance. We were in the outskirts of an industrial park with various warehouses and office buildings. Flashing lights from patrol cars below made me wince.
What now?
Unbind me and I'll take care of everything. We went back down to the warehouse. Beck, Dust, and the rest of the Darunan task force had done most of the work clearing out the warehouse. Dead workers littered the floor. Beck was with a few officers unboxing the cases of Nulon 4. Pria gripped my arm and started losing it.
Oh, shikes! Oh, shikes, oh, shikes! This is just like what happened on Mount Fanta!
I perked up at the sound of that. Dust and Beck had mentioned it earlier. What happened there?
We had a warehouse up there. We disguised it as a soda factory. Someone accidentally put Sprinkle in one of the bottles that was meant to be shipped, and that's how they found us. I called in sick that day, so I missed out, but they totally creamed us. Oh, shikes. Oh, shikes. I need some Sprinkle now. I'm nervous, man. I haven't had a good sniff in over 5 hours.
Before I could try to get her composed, Beck spotted me and smiled wryly.
Well, look who it is, our little dreamer.
Were all these workers armed? Beck ignored my question. He and Dust filled me in on what had happened. After Colt shared my location information, they honed in on my signal with backup. Zybnek had been the first to face them off outside. I remembered he said he was going to be late for something. Dust told me that I should have seen the look on his eyes as the mass of patrol cars converged on him. He immediately stepped out of his vehicle with a Type 2 zapper rifle and started railing on the officers. That gave them all the incentive to use excessive force. Several workers stepped out with zappers. Others who were unarmed fled. It quickly devolved into mayhem from there on.
Your superior keeps calling us. We told him we have it under control now. Who is this?
An informant, second hand to Zybnek. She agreed to come in.
We don't have much use for an informant at this time.
There was an awkward, unmistakable silence between us. Beck and Dust were eyeing Pria in a way a predator would to their prey. Pria, on the other hand, was unaware of social cues in the moment, suffering from sprinkle withdrawal. Alarm bells were ringing in my head. They were not addressing the simple fact that they cleared the warehouse of any and all witnesses. Pria was about to speak when I pulled her by the arm and said, "I'll take her in. I think my work is done here."
Hey, what? We got protocol here too, you know. She needs to be detained by us. She's the Ronin.
Sorry, I got to her first.
Hey, what in blazing comments is this about? You see this, Dust?
Those patrollers.
Pick up the pace. Keep moving.
Where are we going?
I'll explain later. We took the first express shuttle back to Space Patrol Outpost G571. During the ride there, Pria started to deteriorate from her withdrawal. She typically ingested a few ounces of the drug 5 times a day. She was starting to get shaky and paranoid.
Like the wind, you came here running. Take the consequence of living. There's no space. There's no tomorrow, there's no sense communication. Check it in, check it out, 'cause the sun will never shine.
Do you know the rest of the song? She rocked back and forth, hugging herself. I started to question her ability to answer questions. A public shuttle ride was no place for an interrogation, and I began to suspect that Dust and Beck, along with the rest of the Daruna task force, were covering up. They had blasted that warehouse apart like it was the Gargonian Civil War. I waved a hand slowly in front of Pria. Pria, can you hear me?
The song keeps me focused. Like the wind, you came here running.
Good. Keep singing then. I took this time to write in my journal about the dream I had, and the sleep-dowsing experience that followed. I always carried my dream log with me. It's, in fact, my only real notebook. I write all my evidence and observations around the dreams I connect them to. I opened up to a new page and jotted everything down. I knew my subconscious had all the pieces laid out. It was all a matter of putting them together. The second we landed on the outpost, I ushered Pria to my office, in hopes of not stirring anyone's attention. Colt was not in the main office, so I managed to get us into mine without anyone pestering us with questions. Pria, you mentioned something about a cult. Are they behind the stolen Nulon 4 shipments?
Like the wind, you came here running.
Her eyes were growing more dilated by the second. Her rocking was becoming more and more severe. She was showing signs of succumbing to catatonia. I had to do something fast to stabilize her. I had to visit the med bay to get a shot of stabilizers. Stay here. I'll lock the door. I doubted she heard me. The med bay was run by Dr. Lovemore, a woman who was growing increasingly suspicious of her husband's infidelity and wouldn't stop asking people their opinions about it.
Oh, hi, Chett. I was just thinking about you.
Doctor, I need something to stabilize an important witness who is about to become catatonic after withdrawing from Nulon 4.
Speaking of drugs, Richard once took pasta at a party with a coworker of his. He never did drugs before. When I asked him about it, he said it was a cultural ritual amongst the Dardinians. I don't think that's true. Have you ever met a Dardinian who did pasta?
No. Can you fetch me a stabilizer, please?
There used to be some tribes who did that, but when I looked it up, it said they don't do that anymore. Maybe she was from one of those more traditional families? Every culture has that, don't they? People who still cling to the past?
I went into the lab to fetch the vial myself. This usually happened. I asked for something just for the appearance of following the rules of going through her, only to go and fetch what I needed myself. Varpex should work, correct?
Yes, unless the addict is human.
She's a Rylon.
20 cc's should do the trick then. Richard also met a Rylon woman once on his last trip. He had a fancy dinner with her, and when I asked him about it, he said that Rylons are normally accustomed to fancy dinners. Do you think you can ask your witness about that?
Yes. Where are the syringes?
Upper top shelf. Also, don't forget to regularly inject it once every 2 hours for 5 days to fully recover from withdrawal, or else the patient will eventually succumb to withdrawal rage.
Thank you, Doctor. And the Darginians have rituals with tea, not pasta.
I knew it!
I was close to my office before a loud, boisterous voice called me.
Chett! Hold it right there!
Yes, Captain?
Don't you dare yes, Captain me when I'm ready to go supernova. What in blazing comets happened there on Daruna?
I found Zybnek. Daruna police terminated him. The Nulon 4 shipments were recovered.
Don't toy with me. You know very well what you did. Sleeping on the job? Sleepwalking? I thought I hired a detective, not a bum.
Going undercover as a low-income vagrant can be a great way to...
Okay, stop! Stop! Stop it right now! I am this close to firing you right here, right now in front of everyone. The chief is about to arrive, and you better have an explanation for this case.
Captain, if you would please hold a moment. I've got a witness in my office who might die any second if I don't give her this shot of Varpex.
What? You have a witness?
Yes.
From Daruna?
Yes.
And you brought them here? To our outpost?
Yes.
Do you have any idea how we operate? We are not allowed to apprehend anyone else except the suspect we are hired to find.
You will find that Section 5, Paragraph 2 of the Witness Protection Program offers an exception.
You think this witness's life is in danger? How? They cleaned the warehouse. Zybnek is dead. What more is there to do?
Plenty. I fear there is something bigger behind the Nulon 4 shipments.
Chett, if this is some ploy to climb up the ladder, you could forget it. You better climb down before someone kicks you off.
Descend.
What?
Descend the ladder. The word climb is always meant to imply ascending, so
Blast it, Chett!
Captain, I'm sorry to cut the conversation short. The witness really needs this. You don't want a dead Darunan in our outpost now, do you?
Fine. Let me see what crazy muckle you have in there.
Like the wind.
I arrived just in time. Pria had started to drool, and her eyes were wandering. She was going limp in her chair until I sat her straight and injected the Varpex into her neck. She closed her eyes and started snoring.
The hell's wrong with her?
Intense withdrawal from Nulon 4. She probably has been taking it for years, having been Zybnek's right-hand lieutenant.
Like the wind. There's no space. There's no sense communication.
What is she saying?
It's a song. The most mysterious song in the universe. On the shuttle ride to Daruna, I met a singer who was playing it. I knew I heard it somewhere. Apparently, nobody knows its origins, but over the past 1,000 years, people have been adding to it and making it their own. An ultimate song of sorts.
There's no space for any sorrow. Come accept our invitation.
My sleep dowsing led me to her. She mentioned something about a cult, and I think they have something to do with the stolen shipments of Nulon 4. Exactly how or why, I'm not sure yet. I've been going through my dream log, cross-referencing potential subconscious links.
Chett?
Yes?
I don't know who is crazier, you or her.
Once she feels better, I'm going to question her some more.
No, absolutely not. We're going to send her back to the Darunan authorities, and that's it. Our help ended with Zybnek's death.
I wouldn't be surprised if the officers who helped me, Dust and Beck, are here to take her back. I would advise against handing her over to them. They utilized brutal methods in taking over the warehouse. I believe they are part of a cover-up. Lowly places like Daruna don't really have an effective presiding authority other than crime lords.
Chett, you are not making any sense at all. Any moment the chief is going to walk right through those doors. If he hears any of this nonsense...
Come in.
No! Chett!
Is Colt in here? Oh, hi, Colt. Chief Grawl is here. I thought you should know.
See? He's already...
2 officers from Daruna are also here. They, claim that we stole a witness from them?
She turned herself in, so we did not steal her from them. We walked out into the main office area, and the situation that ensued was nothing more than chaotic. Chief Grawl was a large, burly grundicle with a mask that represented all his kills as a warrior of his race. In the chief's case, his mask was lined with hundreds of marks. Chief Grawl recently made headlines in Starcasts for being the first indigenous person to be a Space Patrol chief. Some saw him as an example of lowly and uneducated grundicles being able to be civilized. You can imagine how controversial that topic could be. Being that the chief hid his face behind a mask in front of others, it was difficult for most to discern his expression. But the eyes gave things away to me. Right then and there, he was upset, judging by his narrowed look. Beck had been calmly giving him his contempt for Space Patrol, while Dust filed his nails leaning against the wall. They both stopped talking and gave me a look when we approached them.
Captain, I found this situation most unusual. Care to explain?
Yes, Chief. My apologies. Our detective here, Chett Vangelis, was assigned to the Daruna case.
I believe there is more to this case than meets the eye. We may have taken down the smuggling ring, but I have reason to suspect that there is someone higher on the chain who uses the Nulon 4.
And who might that be?
I do not wish to say. I also believe the Darunan authorities are covering it up.
What?
Oh, my stars.
That's a very grave accusation, Detective. Do you have any evidence?
My own testimony about how they disposed of the drug ring, most of whom were most likely low-income workers trying to find a job. They left nobody alive in such a way that made me feel suspicious. My witness can also attest to a previous incident in which something similar happened at another site.
Excuse us, Chief, but our detective's theories are a little far-fetched and...
I find that very interesting, because I looked over the latest report from Daruna and read that there were survivors spared. Do you two have anything to say about this?
Daruna has been nothing but cooperative with Space Patrol. We may have different methods, but we follow the guidelines of the galactic community concerning rules of engagement.
Again, apologies for this mishap, Chief. I will get to the bottom of it right now and discuss with Chett the intricate details of her theories.
What do you propose to do now, Detective?
Question the witness about where she believes the Nulon 4 shipments are taken to, and then investigate that.
I will allow my detective to pursue her lead. Until the matter is resolved, she is allowed to handle her witness. Section 5, paragraph 2 of our code means that she believes her witness is in danger, and Space Patrol is allowed to commute said witness. Such a rule is acknowledged by all members of the galactic community. Daruna should have no problem with this.
What?
I told you these patrollers were weird.
Oh, boy.
Detective Vangelis, I suggest you continue with your investigation as soon as possible. Don't let me get in your way.
Thank you, sir.
Officers Dusk, Beck. We have nothing further to discuss until Detective Vangelis finishes pursuing her lead. Now, Captain, I believe you are going to give me a tour of your outpost. I hear you have a bowling alley in your rec room.
Yes, Chief. Right this way.
I ignored Beck and Dust and returned to my office to get Pria. She was a bit more lucid, but still slipped into a state of delirium every now and then, almost like an alcoholic trying to sober up.
Is this your office? That's really nice.
Pria, is there anything you can tell me about the cult? Is it in Bader? Or Meinhof? Is it even on Daruna?
Take a chance. There's no tomorrow. Take the consequence with stride. There's no space for any sorrow. Come accept our invitation.
I felt the sting of déjà vu. That sounded familiar. Back in the shuttle, when I met the singer, the television played an ad for Taiki's Fortune, the casino in Bader on Daruna. That song! They rewrote the lyrics to make it an ad for the casino.
Take a chance. There's no tomorrow. Take the consequence with stride. There's no space for any sorrow. Come accept our invitation.
Do you know what the Nulon 4 has to do with Taiki's Fortune?
Come on down, take a chance, and your mind will be amazed.
With Dust and Beck probably waiting in the parking lot to ambush me, I brought Pria with me through the back door. Constant hydration was important for a recovering addict like her. I brought enough electrolytes to run a hydroponic plant. After avoiding Dust and Beck for a good 30 minutes, we were on a shuttle yet again back to Daruna. I didn't want to pester Pria with too many questions, lest I irritate her fragile mind. As we exited the shuttle, Pria became a little more lucid as she realized where we were.
Are we getting more sprinkle?
This was my first time dealing with an addict. Being straight up with her would probably crush her spirit. Promising sprinkle and then her realizing it was a lie later on would also not be good. No response was also a bad choice, as all socially driven creatures thrived on a response. I then had an idea to keep the topic on hand without promising anything. Where does the sprinkle go, Pria?
The casino.
Who has the sprinkle? Pria thought for a moment, staring into nothingness. The crowd weaved around us as we were the only people standing in the way of the exit ramp off the shuttle.
I'm tired. I need to lie down.
She walked away from me in a fugue state. I followed, and she led me to the same park where I had slept in. There, she laid down on one of the benches and mumbled to herself. With a sigh, I sat down next to her, contemplating my next move. The park was desolate like before. I glanced up at the same billboard ad for Taiki's Fortune. The last time I saw the ad, I never paid attention to it changing. After about a full 2 minutes, the billboard shifted to an ad for Black Hole in a Can. The third and final ad showed the face of a green-skinned man with a calm expression looking at the viewer. Rediscover the soul. Ronnie Hoobaroo will be your spirit guide? Get your tickets to the Mind Warp seminar at Taiki's Fortune today. Come on down, take a chance, and your mind will be amazed. Well, that's certainly a start. No matter how far advanced in technology we were, someone out there often tried to put a spiritual spin on it. Self-help seminars were as common as weeds across the galaxy, from Tritaran transhumanists to the worshippers of the Great Attractor. I shouldn't be one to talk, really, as those kinds of people could see my methods of detection as some form of spiritualism. Such fields do tickle my fancy, if only for minor amusement. I believe that every spiritual belief holds some minor truth to how the universe works, even if the majority of it is extraneous nonsense. After I let Pria sleep for a few minutes, we took a bus to the casino. As we approached, it occurred to me that the building was shaped like a medieval castle. A deeper memory resurfaced. Of course. The previous casino 10 years ago used to be called Medieval Money. Despite running with the new theme of the god Taiki, they had kept the previous casino's structure, if not changing the paint job and adding a few new sections. The bus dropped us off at the main entrance. A fake drawbridge led to a fake portcullis under an extravagant sign. Pria, have you met the man who owns the Sprinkle?
No.
Have you been inside?
No. Zybnek said I wasn't allowed.
Then we're entering new territory. Whatever happens, stay close to me. If you see someone you recognize, let me know.
Okay. Hey, what happened to me again? Oh, my head hurts a little.
It's alright. I have some electrolytes for you to drink.
Thanks. Hey, are we getting more Sprinkle?
Don't say that out loud here. We don't know what we're up against.
Okay.
Casino 77 was far better, in my opinion. The interior of Taiki's Fortune felt mostly bland, with rows upon rows of slot machines and tables displaying multiple games neatly lined up. The interior also didn't mix well with the castle theme. All in all, a very mixed feeling of two different styles. Casinos often had a floor with various conference rooms to host events. I headed for the map when I saw something that stopped me dead in my tracks. In the middle of the entire casino was a large cylindrical aquarium, hosting all sorts of exotic aquatic life. The aquarium spanned all 4 floors in the center of the grand staircase. At once I recalled the dream's flood on the casino floor. I filed that in the back of my head. I found it very interesting that Ronnie Hoobaroo himself owned the casino. His face was plastered on almost every side of every slot machine. His seminar was starting in about 1 Earth hour. I had us kill time in a lounge before then, hoping Pria would finally sober up. Her lucidity was plateauing, reaching a limit. I hoped to get through this fast before she crashed. Once we reached the 3rd floor, it was easy to find Hoobaroo's seminar. It was the room with so many people that they were pouring out into the hallway. The audience was mostly older people, probably looking to find a new lease on life through their midlife crises. Some had a dazed look in their eyes, while others were completely innocent and hopeful. Pria and I managed to squeeze through into the room and stand by the entrance.
I've never met the master before. Do you think he'll give us Sprinkle?
Maybe. Nobody was doing Sprinkle out in the open. Were they doing it in private elsewhere? What did the shipments have to do with this? As the seminar began, those visitors unfortunate enough to still be outside in the hallway were locked out. Their cries of dismay were cut short once the soundproof walls closed. Those closing doors gave me an impending sense of doom, like I wasn't meant to leave. For the first time ever, I wondered if I had made a mistake. Hoobaroo entered the stage waving. The seminar was beginning.
Greetings, eternal friends! I see there are a few newcomers here today. Good. Very good. Tonight will be a first. Tonight we will invite those who are not one of us into our group. Our song will be heard throughout the entire casino. And tomorrow, Daruna itself! Of course, before we begin, we will do the usual routine. Who here wants to come up and share their testimonies on how Mind Warp has changed their lives? You, over there in the red sweater. Yes, you! Come on up. Share your story.
Hi, my name is Danny. I've been a member of Mind Warp for 5 years now. I was in a rough spot in my life before I joined. I was stuck in a dead-end job. I hated myself. I hated other people. But my new girlfriend, Linsack, introduced me to Mind Warp. She's right over there. Everyone say, "Hi, Lynn!" What a wonderful girl. After I met her, everything changed. I decided to quit my job, quit my family, quit pretty much everything, really. And I even called my ex and told her how much I hated her. Because you know what? The truth always needs to be let out. And Mind Warp taught me that. Mind Warp taught me that everyone who hates me really hates themselves. And it's not my fault that I was messaging someone on the side. It was my ex who made me message someone on the side by crossing my boundaries, which she wasn't receptive to. And Lynn was receptive to me. I mean, we didn't even need to speak to one another to get each other. She just kind of got me, you know? That's what you need. You need someone who just gets you without communicating. It's great, isn't it? So great. And so, I became filled with so much love that I knew I had to embrace the truth. I called my ex and told her how I really felt about her. I told her she needed to go fuck herself because she was a hater. A pure, unadulterated hater. She needed to die. Die in a fire, Gina. I don't care what your mother thinks of our relationship. Stop being affected by other people's feelings. Just be yourself. Be yourself. That's what Mind Warp taught me.
Another beautiful testimony of Mind Warp, everybody.
I love you, Lynn. Please.
All right, that's enough. Off you go.
While this exquisite display of emotions played on, I paced the room looking for anything out of the ordinary. That was theoretically an easy task given where I was. The only possible lead was backstage, and there was only one way to get backstage.
Do we have any more testimonies before we move on to boundary-breaking exercises?
Yes, me.
Yes, you over there. Come right up.
Hello, my name is Chett. I am new here. I want to say that these testimonies have been beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. In fact, I know someone whose life has been affected by Mind Warp. I'd like to introduce you all to Pria. She's over there. She's brimming with excitement, as you can see. Pria is a lovely girl. She is an addict, and she actually led me here because I heard that there is some sprinkle at this party. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Yes? No? Sorry. The looks I'm getting tell me we might be in the wrong place.
Fuck, who are you?
Is this the boundary-breaking exercise?
Sorry about that, folks. This person appears to be lost. Security? Do you mind taking her to the back with her friend? I think the seminar you're looking for is in the slums.
Pria and I were rudely accosted by large werehoms. Real werehoms this time, not a dream version. They took us backstage where I saw unpacked boxes of Nulon 4 and batches of Mind Melder, the fruity alcoholic beverage. This was a classic punch bowl setup. Trite, but classic. The werehoms tossed us into a back room where they disarmed me and locked us up alone.
Are we getting the sprinkle now?
We're close. Very close.
Before we begin our boundary-breaking exercise, I will take a quick 5-minute break. In the meantime, look around the room and start thinking about what you really want to say to the person sitting next to you. Alright, who the fuck are you people? You better start spilling zeeps before I start cracking ribs.
We're from the warehouse. Hoobaroo stared at me with a blank expression. I assume you heard they raided the place. Zybnek's dead. I expected him to look worried. He didn't. He had taken out a vape and started slowly inhaling, and then casually blew a large wispy puff. After about 5 seconds, he smiled and chuckled.
Let me guess. You want compensation, or else you'll spill.
We want in on your little operation.
Ha! Forget it. This is beyond your league.
Just get us to move a few shipments of sprinkle around, right, Pria?
You have the sprinkle?
This is the high end of the chain, girls. Need to know basis. You did your jobs, and Zybnek was sloppy, and that was the end of it. You should be thankful to have your lives.
We know about the song.
Oh, do you now?
Yes, don't we, Pria?
Like the wind.
Zybnek told you, huh? He was in over his head. Thought he was one of us. He was like you. Wanted to be in on this whole thing. Got too loud. That's why he's dead now. But it's no matter. We don't need any more shipments. We're close to the end. We figured it out.
Figured what out? I pondered, trying to wring it out of him without trying to identify myself.
Anyway, I'm done here. My people need me. I'll have my werehoms strangle you to death.
How do you know we haven't told anyone about it? Aren't you afraid the cops will figure this out?
Are you dense? I own them!
I was a relatively new hire. Okay, so my suspicions were confirmed. My only hope was that he was too dense to realize that I was Space Patrol. Having Pria there helped things.
Hey, man. Do you have any more of that sprinkle? I'm dying here. I'm dying here, man.
Damn, Chucky. No!
No.
What about Space Patrol? You can't own them. Surely they were the ones behind the raid. Aren't you worried they'll get close?
Look, chump, it's all theater. This isn't the first raid I've seen. A few times people get riled up about the shipments, a few of my cronies get hit, I pay the pension for the cops, they get over it, rinse and repeat. It's been nice knowing you. Have a pleasant afterlife. Goodbye.
The two large werehoms that threw us in towered over us. Normally, one would start thinking about how life had been a good ride, or a bad one, depending on your experience. I still had one more ace in my sleeve, and to date it has been the only time I ever knowingly aggravated someone.
Where's the sprinkle?
There is none, Pria. I lied.
You lied? Why would you lie?
Werehoms were one of the top, strongest species in the Milky Way galaxy. Very few things could rival their raw strength and power. One of those things was withdrawal rage from Sprinkle. I hadn't given Pria her latest shot of Varpex yet. When coupled with heightened emotions, a dormant catalyst awakens from lingering Nulon 4 in the body. It tenses every muscle in the body and turns it into a living weapon, making people capable of performing brief, explosive superhuman feats. One of them being facing off against a werehom with bare hands. Pria threw herself onto the werehom in front of her, pinning him to the floor. The second werehom that was about to strangle me turned around, shocked by what had happened. I took this opportunity to steal his zapper and stun him. I did the same with the second werehom, who was about to turn the tide against Pria. Despite the fact that the werehom was convulsing on the floor, Pria didn't seem to notice and kept pummeling the werehom. The moment I opened the door, we both heard the song.
There's no tomorrow. Take the consequence with drive.
Hoobaroo was up on stage singing with a vibrator. I snuck around the curtain and watched as his followers sang along. They all had their eyes closed, and then they slowly opened them, and I knew something was wrong. Their eyes had become glazed, and they gradually lowered their voices into murmurs until they stopped singing entirely. Hoobaroo kept singing, even though the entire crowd had turned lifeless. He continued to sing and checked his watch. I retreated slowly back into the room we were taken to. Pria had put her hands on her ears and was in pain. Pria? What's wrong?
It hurts!
The song was affecting her. There had to be a connection between the use of Sprinkle and the song. Saron Lark, the singer on the shuttle, claimed to have heard rumors about frequencies that affect one's mind. Hoobaroo had said they were close to figuring it out. Pria had been experiencing Sprinkle withdrawal. The frequency of the song clearly affected everyone in the seminar high on Sprinkle, but Priya's mind was probably in a liminal state where the song could have affected her like them, or not affected her at all like me. I helped her up and brought her to an exit through the back. Her health and safety were a top priority. I had hoped to find the med bay at the casino, when I stopped dead in my tracks, realizing what was going on around me. This was a casino. Everyone here drank. Hoobaroo had sprinkled everyone's drink. Everyone had stopped in their tracks, leaning to and fro like grass in the wind, awaiting orders. Gamblers had stopped playing midway through craps and bridge. Slot machines rang out winners, but nobody was hooting and hollering.
Make it stop!
I brought Pria to the front doors, locked, zapper-proof too. Of course, casinos were partly built like bank vaults. Our old friends had recovered from being stunned. They ran towards us with frothing mouths. I looked up and realized what I had to do. I aimed my zapper at the aquarium and fired a single, high-powered bolt. Water poured, and the casino began to flood. As it washed over people in waves, they snapped out of it and started screaming. A crashing wave hit us, and Pria sobered up after nearly choking on a mouthful of water.
What's happening?
I had hoped that the emergency systems would kick in, letting us free. A klaxon went off, interrupting the song, but I tried the doors again, and they were still locked.
Where do we go?
The only way out was up. People were already rushing to the higher levels, most likely trying to find a roof access or emergency stairwell. Pria and I followed them. Once they found an alternate route, I turned to stay.
Wait, where are you going?
Following my dream.
What?
I'll explain later. Go! I had to make sure people made it out safely. This was, after all, my doing. Well, debatable. I went back to the ground floor and waded through the knee-high flood, helping anybody to their feet who wasn't able to. And then I saw it, a fin in the water. It briefly skipped past my peripheral vision out of sight. I hoped they wouldn't have been foolish enough to actually house a dangerous carnivorous fish in a decorative aquarium. Most of what came out were harmless schools of tuna, batches of algae, and genetically modified fluorescent fish. I went back up the grand staircase, water still pouring like rain, and a loud voice from above boomed.
You!
Hoobaroo and his werehoms were at the top of the stairs. The werehoms both reached for me, but they underestimated the slippery steps. I dodged and they tumbled down the stairs. Hoobaroo said nothing and whipped out his zapper. I stunned him before he could point it at me. He toppled over me and we both fell into the water. I tried to get back to the stairs, but the werehoms were in the way trying to get to me. I waded to the opposite direction and found higher ground by climbing a large slot machine among a row of others.
Get back here!
His werehoms appeared concerned. They were trying to shout and get our attention, but the roar of the water and the klaxon drowned them out. Hoobaroo was hell-bent on stopping me. He drew a knife from his jacket pocket, and he climbed the set of slot machines to stab me. There wasn't quite enough room, so we stood awkwardly from each other, trying to balance. I tripped and my foot hit the lever for one of those new quantum slot machines. Apparently you don't need any money for them. They work solely on the superposition and quantum entanglement of atoms inside. In other words, luck. The jarring noise threw Hoobaroo off balance. He cried out as he fell into the water. The fin appeared behind him. I watched solemnly as his face twitched in horror as something jerked his legs. The pain was apparently so great that he could not scream, and then the creature pulled him underwater in one final sweep. I didn't even get a good look at it to know what it was then. After blood filled the area, the lone fin then sauntered away. I don't believe in prophecy. I think prophecy can be a logical fallacy, or self-fulfilling. People sometimes think I have the power of prophecy because of how cases like that turned out. I think they mistake skill for talent. I'm good at what I do because I trained my mind for years to dream lucidly. It's not that I can know what I don't know. It's that I can know what I'm not aware of. I'm sure I've seen ads for Taiki's fortune 1,000 times over, and I consciously ignored them. But that image is still seared in my memory, in pieces like bricks until I willingly try to piece it together. I'm sure those ads touted the aquarium, and I'm sure they mentioned something about housing a viper shark, which was the species that killed Hoobaroo. But I've never been there before, which was why my dream used Casino 77 instead as a template, as it used to be the only casino I ever stepped foot in. In my opinion, the only moment that was pure luck was the slot machine, which is fitting. Then again, quantum slot machines are said to produce results from detecting pure vibes from the gambler. In that instance, survival was the only vibe genuinely running through my head at that moment.
Am I going to jail?
No, my petition for your rehabilitation was a success. Although I may not have mentioned to them anything about your previous executions. Best to keep that to yourself.
Man, I feel like I was in a dream for the past, I don't know, year or so?
Dr. Lovemore said your brain was in danger of becoming mush. It's a good thing you stopped. Come in.
Chett, Colt wants a word with you. Her shuttle is here, by the way.
Thanks. Well, Pria, try to stay out of any cults.
Will do, Miss Detective.
Oh, I forgot to ask you. Now that you're sound of mind, are your people accustomed to having fancy dinners?
No. We tend to live aesthetically. Anyone who offers us a fancy dinner is practically proposing to us.
Oh dear.
Why? What's up?
Nothing, just something I'll deal with later. You called for me, sir?
I don't know whether to be happy or upset.
Well, I'd say uncovering a self-help cult aimed at finding a way to conduct mind control experiments on its members is a good thing.
Yeah, but now relations between Daruna and Space Patrol are tenuous at best. I've been getting calls up my black hole, left and right, about how we tried to bully them or trick them or some other wild accusation. That and the threat of intergalactic lawsuits.
Well...
And you've got me reading the most insane report of my career. I don't even fully understand half of what happened.
Oh, it's very simple. See, the most mysterious song in the universe was simply a tangentially related thread. As people added to it over the years, they made some accidental discoveries about certain frequencies. Hoobaroo heard rumors about these certain frequencies that could pacify minds, make people more suggestible. However, hearing the song alone while awake was not enough. He already used Sprinkle in some of his seminars. Most self-help kooks do. So he put 2 and 2 together. While under the influence of Sprinkle, the mind is more susceptible to the frequency of music derived from the most mysterious song in the universe. Sir?
I can't believe the chief is going to read this muckle.
From what I heard, he was quite fond of...
I know. Thanks, I hate it.
Is that the reason you wish to see me, sir?
Good work, Vangelis. Not exactly what I expected from this case, but good work. Blazing comets. Hello? Yes. Uh-huh. Yes, I know your insurance company doesn't cover aquarium floods. Yes, I understand. Hold on a moment. You can go, Vangelis.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and Vangelis, this is all your fault, by the way. Oh, you think this is funny?
No, sorry. I was just thinking of a dream I had.
This has been Lucid Mysteries, Episode 1, Melody of the Mind's Eye. Written by Eddie Francisco and Trinity Lopez. Edited by Eddie Francisco and Eldar Basic. Featuring the voices of Claire Bloom as Chett Vangelis, Stu Franks as Captain Colt, Ty Scheuerman as Beck Hoffman, David Riverol as Avida, Andrea Avery as Pria, Wesley Grooms as Zybnek Frost and Ronnie Hoobaroo, Jeremias Brantolm as Chief Grawl, Rosalie Fry as Dr. Lovemore, guest starring Sharief Hobley as Saron Lark. Theme song composed by Digital Headspace. Guitar compositions by Jeremias Brantolm. And the most mysterious song on the internet composed by Unknown.